So, hey guys, I've clearly had a descent into madness, so don't mind the mess here of cards. So, the main point of this deck, well, I wouldn't worry about the list as a whole just yet, but the main point of this deck is to utilize both, perhaps like Quakey Meru Doom and Quakey Meru Drago. So the effect of Quakey Meru Drago is probably preferable, but it does have the caveat of not being as good going second, because if your opponent has already summoned monsters, then, well, okay, you do nothing. But going first, Drago would completely crush Tear, being equivalent to something like a Protoss, whatever. Quakey Mirror Doom, however, says negate the effects of light and dark monsters that activate during the main phase. It does not even state where. It can be the graveyard, the banished, the extra deck. It could be activating from the deck. Doesn't matter where. Quakey Mirror Doom says that their effects will be negated. And this applies to both players, of course, so logically you would want to play around that, which is a bit more rough, of course. So there's also an upkeep that you might have to pay. So Quakey Mirror Doom says, during each of your end phases, destroy this card unless you send one Iron Core of Quakey Mirror from your hand to the graveyard or reveal one Fiend-type monster in your hand. In which case, I could not find any Fiend decks that could play Quakey Mirror Doom, unfortunately. Well, I don't think there are any that could possibly play Doom, at least. I might have to go back and check, though, I suppose, but one way to avoid paying the upkeep, aside from having a Fiend in hand of some sort, one of the logical ones, I think, to be running with Quakey Mirror Doom would be, let's see, Armageddon Knight, I think. Was it? No, not Armageddon Knight. That's not quite right. What was the name? No, Skullmeister. I believe Skullmeister is a fiend. But, like, the awkward part of Skullmeister is that it is also a dark monster, as most fiends are. Dark, light, pretty common type. So, having some kind of fiend deck that can play with this is just really weird. Because, for example, like, you might be able to summon this with, like, in a DD combo if you're, like, cracked, right? But, like, it'll negate all your DD monsters, so Giga awkward. Well, that A side... Well, actually, it doesn't negate all of them, actually. It does negate, like, Deus Machinex, but High Wave King Caesar, Flame King Genghis, that they are fire and water respectively, so maybe you could figure something out with that. But if you activate Diamond Core of Quakey Meru, this has no hard ones per turn, and it allows you to add just a Quakey Meru card, and you can also banish this card from your graveyard. For the rest of this turn, Quakey Meru monsters you control cannot be destroyed. It does not say by effect or anything like that, so Quakey Meru Doom would, even though you cannot pay the upkeep, it would not be destroyed by its effect, I guess. I guess you might be able to also negate Quakey Meru for a turn or something weird like that, in order to allow yourself to play around this a bit. Because in, like, for example, with the Odd Eyes cards, we have Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon, which is actually a wind. We have Magic Spectre Paladin, which is a wind. Burn to Floor, wind. Ignister Prominence, that is a fire. So whenever the true Draco Pen cards release, I might try harder to build a deck revolved around this. So I just thought it was interesting with the Magic Spectre stuff. Like, I believe Tearlaments, they probably target, yeah? So, for example, with, let's see, sulliek, let's see, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls, negate its effects. That does not work. Tearlaments, Kaleido Heart, Okay, you can target one card your opponent controls, shuffle it into the deck. That does not work either. Removal planet Perlarino. Target a card on the field, destroy it. And then Tearlament's Rule Kalos. This, when your opponent activates a card or effect that includes an effect that special summons a monsters. So, you don't actually really do that with Magispector. Pen summons are not an effect, so Rukalos would not be able to negate it, so I thought maybe if you could utilize Magispector somehow, that might do well, potentially. And you also happen to not play into the graveyard when you play Pens, of course, which will deal with Abyss Dweller, and also the Ishizu cards will not affect you too heavily because they shuffle from the graveyard. Not really gonna do much against you here. And to help you out a little bit further, Magispector Supercell, I was thinking, is pretty good actually. So the activation and effects of your Magispector cards can no longer be negated now. So even if they were to, for example, use the Retoplant fusion monster to negate your monster, you'll still be able to activate its effect. Is what I would say if Magispectors really did anything. So these guys are kind of just walls. Small walls, but you know. Not having Kirin kind of sucks. Kirin would kind of make this more viable as a strategy. So probably going to drop the Magispector parts of this deck and rework it, but the Magispector stuff can completely play with Quakey Mirror Doom, being able to just play, I guess, and Quakey Mirror Doom is just kind of obnoxious to deal with for our opponent. Magispectors are all wind, so I thought maybe. And Performable Pal 5 Rainbow Magician, of course, would just be pretty nasty, but perhaps not nasty enough. The issue with running Performable Pal 5 Rainbow is that it only negates on-field effects, basically. As you can see right here, all monsters they control, meaning on the field, cannot attack or activate their effects, so worth consideration, but probably going to just cut 5 Rainbow. Although with the Magispector and Pen Magician stuff, you have like cards like Time Pendulum Graph, and being able to search Magispector cards to have like a set card for your 5 Rainbow is not entirely bad at all. So Baron de Flor, of course, and like Apollosa, for example, are completely fine under like a Quakey Mirror Doom. And of course, like, the main game plan I have with Quakey Mirror Doom, like, if possible, like, let's assume I have a working engine that works alongside Quakey Mirror Doom. I can, if I normal summon Quakey Mirror Doom, even if my opponent has, like, a full tier end board or whatever, all of their monsters happen to be dark, so this is more or less a one-sided Amano Owado. Almost, kind of. Like, I mean, you're still affected by this, but the idea is that you would build your deck around this and play around this. And maybe an early Vortex Dragon would be good, but I mean, I haven't really made this efficient or anything. Still working with concepts here, but there's also this copy of Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries I put in here, and this one copy of Kit Kalos. Reveal Kit Kalos, banish Kit Kalos from my opponent's deck. That should shut down a lot of Tearlament players, just combos in general, and it should just stop them from playing, hopefully. Because I believe the only card that, aside from if they mill, like, perfect, I guess, they can maybe make an Elshaldo window if they're running it. Tearlament's Kaleido Heart. Maybe. I guess. Against the Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries, but Quakey Mirror Doom mostly is what I'm focusing on, because Quakey Mirror Doom has an effect that completely destroys them. So the only time they'd be able to activate light and dark monster effects would be like during standby, draw phase, and the battle phase, end phase, which is not that often really. So what they're left with is basically just the Ishizu cards alone. So let's go ahead and look at those, because they shouldn't be able to even get two bodies on the field to make an XYZ or Link monster without being able to activate a light or dark monster's effect. So Kel does 1,200, Midora is 1,500, Kelbeck is 1,500, Yugioh is 1,500, so none of those can just normal summon and like crash or attack into an attack position Quakey Mirror Doom. So already looking pretty solid here in this regard, but all they would be able to activate is just some milling and shuffling of the graveyard for basically no effect, assuming they open maybe multiple like Ishizu cards. So overall, these don't look like a super big deal. And of course, we don't send from hand or deck to our graveyard that much at all when we're playing Pends, so that also plays around just Kelbeck in general. So it's just a matter of optimizing and finding if there is a way to play Quakey Mirror Doom. If I have to wait for some support, maybe, I mean, I'm down to do that, but the True King stuff, like the Pendraco stuff, like Luster Pendulum, the True Draco Slayer here, we still haven't really gotten that support yet, so maybe with that, we'll be able to cook something up. Not 100% sure yet, but I think this idea is, well, it has some merit to it. For example, though, there were some other decks I was thinking or considering, like Speedroid, for example, consists of only wind monsters, and if I were able to just commit my normal summon for Quakey Mirror Doom, I could, I don't know, summon Terratop first, normal summon Doom, and then just do my full combo, and then we'd be solid, I guess. The only issue really is just having Quakey Mirror Doom stay on the field. So real fast, let's see if we have a negate card that can just negate for the turn, like a Crystal Wing perhaps. Crystal Clear Wing. No, so not one of those. So let's see. Wait, if I type in Wing Synchro, maybe? Does that work? No, not really. I'm thinking if they're about, maybe. That's only your opponent controls, because otherwise this would work nicely, actually. It is a dark, though, so it doesn't really work out in our favor here. How about Clear Wing Synchro? That's only activated effects. That won't really work, but if there is a, like, negate that I can use for just the turn to negate our copy of Quakey Mirror Doom, perhaps, that might be worth some merit as well. So I can do that, like, maybe during, like, close to the end phase, so that I can retain Quakey Mirror Doom and stop our opponent from playing. So this would be a good tech going first and second if you can get it working, I guess, get it functional. Of course, this also beats, like, a variety of meta decks as well, like, this actually affects Sword Soul, I believe. Let's see. Chizao is a light. What is Long One? Long One is a fire, so it doesn't affect that. So it's still, even if it only affects like Chizao, that's still useful. Speaking of Chizao, though, actually, does Chizao have the ability to negate one other effect monster? As in, it could negate Quakey Mirror Doom. Just an interesting thought. Worm. There are worm pens as well, so maybe worth considering that as well. But there's also, with Quakeymare Drago, there is actually a good Wind Dragon archetype as it happens, so maybe Dragunity. If Dragunity could run Drago, like maybe special summon it off of like a Romulus, then you can special summon a, like if you can activate this Romulus effect to special summon a dragon. And for the rest of this turn, its effects are negated. And it's just for the turn, which is fine, but then Drago will be up the next turn. And in fact, if this is the case, actually, I didn't realize this negated, then actually Romulus could just summon a Quakeymare Drago, like in Dragon Link maybe, for example, which is a bit of a terrifying, like, thought to have. Well, it's not negated for the turn, though. If it was negated for the turn, then that's where it would be relevant, I guess, so that doesn't really work, but actually, what about the Guard Dragon? Can we summon it back with a Guard Dragon? Oh. Whoops. Let's check. Guard Dragon Fisty. You can target one of your dragon monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. Special summon it to your zone that 2 or more like monsters point to. Ah yeah, you can definitely summon it off of like a Pisty. So maybe in a Dragon Link variant you could summon Quakeymare Drago to just floodgate your opponent like near the end of your turn. So, of course, not being able to summon light or dark monsters would be, like, devastating for a Tearlament player, so this is more going first than, well, it doesn't really do much going second, I suppose, but Quakeymare Doom has its uses going first and second, so I'm mostly looking at that card for now, so I'm just thinking about ideas for now, so I don't have a functioning deck list, but these are all the various relevant cards I was thinking about, I guess. And of course, Chronograph Sorcerer has this lovely effect of being able to just special summon a monster from your hand, so maybe Chronograph summoning like a Quakeymare Doom or a Quakeymare Drago at the end of your turn, and then maybe linking off the copy of Chronograph or doing something with it, I guess, before you end your turn might not be entirely bad either. So that is definitely worth considering, but losing a copy of Supreme King Dragon Starving Venom actually makes that line specifically a little harder to access, having only one Starving Venom. So a little unfortunate there, but it is what it is, I suppose. So right now this is just a working idea, and I guess I'll post a deck list whenever I have a decent functioning one kind of set up, I guess. I guess the issue with Pend is how much engine you have to commit. Maybe. Maybe I will look into Dragon Link, I guess, then. Well, anyways, that's all I have for you guys today, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.